Nonchalant. The most underrated yet dangerous trait in a world addicted to reactions and noise. Everyone wants to speak. Everyone wants to prove something. Every feeling is displayed, every thought announced, every move exposed. But real power hides in restraint. The man who stays calm, who doesn't chase, who doesn't reveal his hunger, becomes the one people fear most. This isn't apathy, it's control, composure, dominance hidden behind indifference.
Being nonchalant doesn't mean feeling nothing. It means choosing carefully what deserves your emotion. It means hiding intention and remaining unreadable. Niccolò Machiavelli understood that appearances are weapons. He believed a ruler must appear composed even when everything around him is collapsing, because once people sense your desperation, they gain leverage over you. But when they see nothing, no panic in your voice, no urgency in your face, no need in your eyes, they become unsettled. They cannot read you, and what cannot be read often becomes dangerous. The nonchalant man keeps his strength in silence. He speaks less, moves carefully, and thinks before reacting. He doesn't rush to fill empty space with words, and he doesn't expose every emotion he feels. He is calculated, disciplined, intentional. While everyone else reacts to every insult, every rumor, every shift in the atmosphere, he stays still, not because he's weak, but because he's observing, measuring, waiting. There is power in uncertainty, in becoming the question people can't answer. Why doesn't he react? Why doesn't he chase? Why does he seem unaffected? Their confusion becomes your advantage, and their curiosity becomes your control. The moment you stop reacting to everything, people begin moving toward you instead. The world is drawn to mystery. It ignores what feels predictable and obsesses over what it cannot fully understand. Not the absence of emotion, but mastery over it. Feeling deeply while revealing almost nothing. Thinking intensely while appearing detached. Holding power without announcing it. When you're nonchalant, you control the emotional atmosphere. People are forced to guess how you feel, what you want, what you're thinking. You give them no obvious signs, no emotional openings, no easy access. And while they try to understand you, they unknowingly expose themselves. Their cards become visible, while yours stay hidden. This is psychological warfare. The one who appears to need nothing usually controls the room, because what you don't ask for, people try to offer. What you pretend not to want, others begin chasing you with. Your silence creates tension, your distance creates pursuit, and your calm creates authority. But this calm isn't natural, it's trained. The nonchalant man learns how to pause, how to delay reactions, how to separate emotion from expression. He understands that urgency doesn't always require action, and visibility doesn't equal influence. He moves only when necessary, and because of that, every move carries weight. You cannot beg for respect and expect to keep your dignity. You cannot chase attention and still appear powerful. The man who is truly confident always seems slightly detached. Even when he cares deeply, he never reveals it too early. He understands emotion is currency, so he spends it carefully. The world respects what it cannot predict, what it cannot control, what it cannot fully understand. The nonchalant man becomes the symbol of that. Discipline in an age of impulse, silence in a world addicted to noise. And maybe that's why the calmest person in the room is usually the most dangerous one. It threatens the frantic. It exposes the insecure. Because while everyone else is trying to prove something, he proves nothing. He simply exists. And in a world addicted to attention, reaction, and drama, the man who refuses to be shaken becomes impossible to ignore. Niccolò Machiavelli wrote that strength alone is not enough. A man must appear strong. In the same way, it is not enough to feel composed. You must appear unmoved, because appearance slowly becomes reality. If people believe you are in control, they treat you like you are. If they believe you are unaffected, they begin questioning their own behavior. You shape perception, by mastering expression. Nonchalance is not a performance. It's not something you wear for approval. It's the result of a mind that has stopped chasing what doesn't matter. It comes from mastering impulse, breaking dependency on attention, and realizing that urgency is often the enemy of power. Man who reacts too quickly gives away control, but the man who moves slowly, who speaks carefully, who knows how to wait, eventually begins to rule the room. There is power in restraint, a deep, quiet force that comes from saying less, reacting less, doing less. Every time you hold back an emotional reaction, you gain control over yourself. Every time someone exposes their motives while you remain still, you gain insight. And insight is advantage. People may call it cold, they may call it distant, but the nonchalant man does not fear misunderstanding. He is not focused on being liked. He is focused on winning. And winning, in the Machiavellian sense, is not about having more. It's about outlasting, outmaneuvering, outthinking. Do not confuse nonchalance with weakness. It is patience with teeth, a controlled detachment that only disciplined people can maintain. It says, I am not threatened by what you do. I do not need to prove myself. I am comfortable letting silence speak for me. In every room, there is one man who does not compete for attention. He doesn't jump into every argument. He doesn't chase every opportunity. He doesn't speak unless his words are worth more than the silence they replace. That man controls the room because his energy is rare. His presence does not beg. It commands. You may feel pressure to always be loud, to constantly prove yourself, to fill every space with noise. But truly confident people don't need permission from the world. They don't perform power. They carry it quietly. And when that kind of silence enters a room, everyone notices. Nonchalance is often mistaken for arrogance, but it is not built on ego. It is built on mastery. Mastery of timing, presence, and expression. The ability to feel deeply while showing almost nothing. To stay fully aware while appearing perfectly detached. And that illusion, the illusion of needing nothing, creates gravity. People move toward what moves away from them. They obsess over what ignores them. They submit to what does not beg. That is the paradox of power. The less you reveal, the more people imagine. The less you chase, the more they pursue. The less you speak, the heavier your words become. The nonchalant man is not silent because he has nothing to say. He is silent because most things are not worth saying. He does not waste his presence. He does not dilute himself by being everywhere all the time. He waits. He appears only when it matters. And when he does, people pay attention. Machiavelli warned that the appearance of virtue is often more useful than virtue itself. In the same way, the appearance of indifference can be more powerful than truly feeling nothing. Because a man who feels nothing becomes numb, and numbness is weakness. But a man who feels everything and still filters it through discipline becomes untouchable. He can sit in front of chaos, insult, temptation, and still choose silence. You do not owe anyone your emotions. You do not owe the world your vulnerability. To be nonchalant is to say, I decide what matters. I decide what enters my mind. I decide when I speak and when I stay silent. That is real confidence. Not loudness, not confrontation, but the refusal to be moved unless it happens on your terms. Watch how people panic in silence. Watch how quickly they rush to fill it. They confess too much, try too hard, reveal their intentions, simply because they cannot tolerate not knowing what you're thinking. That is the leverage nonchalance creates. You remain quiet, and they expose everything. Understand this clearly. This is not about manipulation. It is about controlling emotional space, psychological space. If someone angers you and you remain calm, they lose control. If someone insults you and you stay unaffected, they become uncomfortable. If someone pulls away and you do not chase, they begin questioning themselves. This is how power is built, not through force, but through discipline. The man who does not flinch has trained that stillness for years. He has faced fear in private. He has burned through weakness in silence. He understands the difference between reaction and response. Reaction is cheap. Response is rare. Reaction is instinct. Response is strategy. The nonchalant man lives through response. He knows what he wants, but he is not desperate for it. He knows who he is, so he does not perform for attention. He knows his value, so he never needs to sell himself. And that quiet certainty radiates. It doesn't need promotion. It is felt, not announced. Seen, not explained. You must learn to tolerate being misunderstood, to keep your expression steady when someone misjudges you, to delay gratification even when attention is right in front of you, to keep your plans private, even when your ego wants applause. That is the cost of power, the price of poise, the discipline of nonchalance. There will be moments when you want to react, moments when silence feels weak, moments when walking away feels like defeat. But remember, most people are ruled by impulse. They react emotionally, instantly, loudly, and that noise destroys them. It makes them predictable, vulnerable, replaceable. But the nonchalant man is remembered, because in a world addicted to stimulation, calm feels rare. Stillness feels unnatural. Restraint feels dominant. People never forget how you made them feel. And standing near someone who does not react, does not chase, does not need, creates tension. It unsettles them, but it also pulls them closer. This is how you shift the frame, not by fighting for control, but by refusing to be shaken, not by convincing others, but by becoming the standard itself. A presence that does not seek validation, a mind that does not blink, a spirit that watches, waits, and acts only when the outcome is already clear. There is a reason leaders speak last. There is a reason strong men do not shout. When you are truly powerful, your silence becomes a weapon. You do not need to enter every debate. You do not need to force yourself into every conversation. Let others exhaust themselves trying to be noticed. And when the noise fades, you are still there. Calm, clear, unmoved. The nonchalant man is not rushed by time or controlled by popularity. He understands that the world is naturally frantic. People are impulsive, insecure, reactive. They chase trends, approval, attention. But the moment you rise above that rush, the moment you appear untouched by it, you become magnetic. You stand out, not because you demand attention, but because you master your presence. Niccolò Machiavelli understood this balance. He knew a ruler must be feared more than loved, but never hated. Nonchalance walks that line perfectly. It creates respect without begging for affection. It holds power without needing volume, because power built on mystery lasts longer than power built on noise. When you speak, your words carry weight, not because they are louder, but because they are rare. When you act, your movements matter more, not because they are dramatic, but because they are deliberate. The nonchalant man does not waste himself. Every gesture, every expression, every moment of attention is measured, and that makes his presence feel valuable. People crave certainty. They search for someone who feels grounded, stable, controlled. The nonchalant man provides that, not through reassurance, but through stillness. He does not over-explain himself. He does not over-clarify. He lets actions speak, and silence echo. And inside that quiet confidence, people feel stability, even if they cannot explain why. You must become the eye of the storm, the calm center in a chaotic world, not by pretending to be above emotion, but by mastering your reactions to it. Every time you resist the urge to speak, you gain control. Every time you walk away without reacting, you grow stronger. Because most people are slaves to emotion. They obey every impulse. But the nonchalant man rules over his instincts. That is why he commands the room, because he first learned to command himself. Even in relationships, nonchalance is power, not emotional manipulation, not coldness, but emotional sovereignty, the ability to care without clinging, to love without losing yourself, to be fully present without fully exposing yourself. When you hold your center, you create tension, depth, polarity, and in that space, people naturally move closer, not because you chase them, but because you don't. There is beauty in not needing, in being complete before anyone arrives, in refusing to perform softness just to be accepted. The nonchalant man is not cruel. He is simply unshaken. His peace is not a tactic. It is a state earned through struggle, loss, and silent battles within himself. And that inner victory cannot be taken away. Niccolò Machiavelli taught that fortune favors the bold. But boldness does not always arrive with noise. Sometimes true boldness is refusing to be provoked, refusing to take the bait, refusing to lower yourself to the level of people trying to drag you down. That restraint, that quiet refusal, is one of the strongest things a man can practice. The world will test your calm. It will insult you, dismiss you, misunderstand you. It will tempt you into reacting, explaining, proving yourself. But the real test is not how loudly you can fight. The real test is whether you can walk through all of it, silent, steady, focused, eyes forward, shoulders relaxed, mind untouched. That is what makes you rare. That is what makes you unforgettable. Not the noise you create, but the calm you maintain. Not the approval you chase, but the gravity you carry. You do not become nonchalant by accident. You become nonchalant by design, through patience, through pain, through purpose. Real power is quiet. It moves without needing attention. It does not explain itself. It does not beg for applause. It does not chase validation. It simply exists, deliberate, grounded, undeniable. And that is the essence of nonchalance, not pretending not to care, but becoming so rooted in self-mastery that the world can no longer shake you. This is not the absence of emotion. It is the presence of control. The ability to hold tension without breaking, to hear insults without reacting, to feel pressure without panicking. The nonchalant man is not empty of feeling. He is overflowing with discipline. And discipline is the highest form of self-respect. Understand this clearly. Nonchalance is earned. Most people are naturally impulsive. We crave approval. We want to be understood. But the man who trains himself to rise above those urges, who learns patience, composure, observation, becomes untouchable. Not because life stops testing him, but because he stops flinching. Machiavelli understood the theater of power. He knew perception shapes influence. If you appear desperate, people treat you as weak. If you appear calm, they see you as capable. If you appear detached, they begin to fear you. The nonchalant man understands this naturally, not through manipulation, but through consistency. His composure is not an act, it is a habit. He remains the same under pressure, alone, in public, in conflict. His energy does not shift for attention, and that consistency builds trust. And trust, even when silent, creates control. When people realize they cannot provoke you, they begin changing themselves. Instead, they hesitate. They rethink their actions. They reflect. Because you have become a mirror, and in your calm, they are forced to confront their own chaos. Your restraint exposes their noise, and through that contrast, You rise above them without saying a word. This is not superiority. It is sovereignty. The mastery of your energy, your reactions, your presence. You decide when to speak, when to move, when to reveal yourself. You are never dragged into chaos, never emotionally exposed, never rushed, because you have built an inner world that cannot be invaded. The nonchalant man does not fear misunderstanding. He understands. Mystery is more powerful than explanation. Suggestion is more seductive than confession. A calm face is more commanding than a loud voice. He does not trade strength for sympathy. He does not beg to be understood. He allows people to assume, project, wonder, while he remains still. And stillness creates contrast. Contrast creates power. In a world full of talkers, the listener becomes dangerous. In a world addicted to reaction, the man who pauses becomes unpredictable. In a world drowning in noise, silence becomes a presence of its own. And that presence lingers. Because people rarely remember every word you said, but they always remember how you made them feel. And standing near someone who does not chase, does not need, does not flinch, creates a feeling that is impossible to forget. That is gravity. That is dominance. If you want respect, stop performing. Stop over-explaining. Stop reacting to every little thing demanding your attention. Start observing. Start withholding. Start treating your energy like the most valuable currency you possess, because it is. A man who stays composed under pressure, who hides his hand, who listens first and reacts last, holds real power. Not temporary power that flashes and disappears, but lasting power. The kind that builds empires. The kind that shapes perception. The kind that changes the emotional balance of every room he enters. Nonchalance is not about caring less. It is about caring with precision, directing your energy only toward what truly matters, remaining stable while others desperately wait to see you fall apart. It is quiet strength, strategic restraint, controlled presence. And it is not for weak people. It is not for the impulsive. It is for the man who has stared directly into chaos and refused to blink. The man who has mastered himself so completely that the world has no choice but to respond to him. And that is the final lesson. Be nonchalant, not to appear powerful, but because you already are.